Okay, so there we go. So as Michelle said, what I'm going to chat to you about today is some of the findings from my PhD study. I come from an education background. I've taught children with disabilities for many moons, and then I moved into higher education as a lecturer. And just for me, is the outcome of a good outcome of education is employment. One of the benefits. And what happens to children with disabilities after they finish school? Where do they go? Are we happy with them taking bottle top lids off glass jars for the rest of their lives, or should we be aiming higher? What are some of the factors that are preventing kids with disabilities moving to higher education, and then from higher education into employment? So that was just my toy, looking at some of our special schools offering car washing as a matric subject. Woohoo! What type of jobs are we aiming for? Is there a glass ceiling in our special schools? What can we do to support as employers? What can we do to start bridging the gap between education, primary, secondary, and then into higher education? We need to be looking at, there's going to be no quick fixes. You can't sort of get okay, we'll just have 700 people with disabilities, we'll just move them in straight away. It's going to be long-term solutions that we're going to need to find here. Okay, so you all know, why do we need to focus on disability employment? We've got Employment Equity Act, as exactly what Dermot was saying this morning. You've got your scorecards. There's also, it's the right thing to do. And I'm sure that other people like Jeremy, who are going to be chatting about business case possibly later, some of the motivating factors to why we need to employ more people with disabilities. Okay, so as I already waffled on about my background as a teacher, lecturer, and I thought today I'm going to chat about some of the experiences of people with disabilities. What are they saying? What are some of their challenges integrating into employment? And then after lunch, those of you who've got nothing better to do, I'm going to be chatting about retention later. And there's also accommodations and insight of people with psychosocial disabilities, what you might have known as mental health disabilities, psychosocial disabilities later. So it's going to be not going to duplicate the same thing 3 times. Okay, so so my study aims to look at the impact of onset of disability, because not everyone's born with a disability. Some acquire at a later stage, so it's the impact of when a person acquires their disability, the influence of education, whether that's primary, secondary, or tertiary, and the specific experiences of people with disabilities, as I said, looking at the integration and then retention. And I use the Employment Equities Code, all their different phases of employment as my headings. And also just wanting to see whether they experienced any barriers and what those were and what we can learn from those. Okay, so who was included in my study? I had 72 people with a range of different disabilities. So 28% hearing disabilities, 26 visual disabilities, 17 physical, 3 learning disabilities, which you might know as intellectual disabilities, neurological, and psychosocial is 10, and there's a sneaky number there, and I cannot remember what that is. It was hiding. Sorry about that, no idea. And then multiple disabilities were 5. And it's often a category that we exclude. People who've got multiple disabilities. Normally focus on the one, but the others will definitely impact as well. And we have limited research currently, and most of that is focusing on white wheelchair users. When you think disability, white wheelchair users. I've got accessible toilets and ramps, we're sorted. We need to be looking at other accommodations. So anyone interested about psychosocial later, some fascinating things came out there. Okay, age range, most of our participants were aged 39 to 44. Sorry, I wrote 49 to 44. Sorry. There we go. Oh, yes. So most of them, 17 of participants were between the ages of 40 and 44. And 30 to 34 also quite high, and 35 to 39 as well. So just the ranges. Provinces, managed to interview people from 7 out of the 9 provinces as well. And I'm not saying all people with disabilities experience this. These were just the ones that I was fortunate enough to interview. Biggest Western Cape, because I'm from the Western Cape, and Gauteng as well. You can can chat about it more. Schooling attended. Dermot, thank you for this morning's just the numbers, because this was people just looking at where they went to. 43% of people I interviewed went to a special school, and 49% went to mainstream school, and the 8% attended both. Okay, so it was either they went to a special school, got some therapy and assistance that they needed, and then they could mainstream after that, or others acquired their disability at a later stage, or fail. Oh, we don't know what to do with you. Let's send you to a special school later. So that was the combination, both there. Higher education, again, the stats are showing that very, very few do, but the people that I interviewed were actually just showing that, that the 51% that did make it, that did go to higher education, what are their experiences? So of those, congenital, so these are participants, people who are born with disabilities, 28%, and acquired was 72%, acquired their disability at later stage. Okay, so the main findings, first looking at the integration phase, application forms and adverts, big challenges with accessibility. So they have so many adverts have got the lovely, we encourage people with disabilities to apply, and that's about as far as accommodations go. Just having to get people to read adverts they're printed in an accessible format. For some people with visual impairments, they can't access the materials. They can't turn pages of newspapers. This was a while ago that my study was. We are making progress there, but just working with your HR departments, with your recruitment, to how accessible are your adverts, and looking at your requirements as well. Silly things like so many of our participants were completely excluded because of the driving requirement. You can't be a social worker, you can't study to be a social worker. You can do the course, but then actually you're never going to be able to do the job, but we'll allow you to come to a higher education, take your money, but we're not going to endorse you any further because a requirement is to drive. No, actually it's to see your patients or clients. How you get there is immaterial. No, but you need to have a driver's license because you have to go into rural areas, you have to go wherever. And say, hold a second, but actually you've got a carpool and no one drives. One person is dropping everyone off. Thinking out of the box, how necessary is driving, or is it getting to the place you need to be, or is it driving? And what accommodations can we make? Many people with disabilities got their jobs through personal contacts, family, friends, someone else in the company saying, oh, there's this job going, come, let me introduce you to the HR manager. There was my uncle's got a disability, my heart is more aware and I know about some of the capabilities, we'll get you in that way. So it was quite interesting to see how many was a personal contact that got them in. Confidentiality and disclosure of disability was huge. As I'm sure you'll know, within the Employment Equity Act, it says that you can disclose at any point within the employment phase. So from your adverts, when you apply for your job, you can disclose then, or you can disclose at a later stage or not at all. And some of the benefits for disclosure would be the employee can mark you down as a person with a disability. So from an employment target, great. But why? Why should I disclose that I have a disability so that I can be prevented from getting promoted? Why? What are the benefits for a person with a disability? Is it to access reasonable accommodations? Then absolutely you do need to disclose. So I thought I'd just give you some quotes that some people are saying. I don't think I should disclose in any way because of the stigma attached to any kind of disorder, being mental or physical. People still judge anyway. No, I'd rather keep it to myself. People react funny, take advantage of me. So this was a person with a learning disability that was really worried about if I disclose on my application form, am I going to be invited in for an interview? Or do I try fake it and I'm fine, I'm normal, in quotation marks, and I try and have to prove that I'm okay, and then I'll disclose it at a later stage. The stress that was around so much to disclosure. I've had situations where I haven't disclosed. People have come back to me and say, let's organize an interview. I've gone, by the way, hey, I'm blind. They'll go, oh. And no, well then, no, we actually can't have, it's not you, honey, it's us. We can't accommodate you. We'd love to have you, but we can't accommodate. It's just the building. It's we don't quite know what to do with you. Okay, lots of debate around employment equity. At our last WiNN meeting, 2 WiNN meetings ago, we're talking about what happens to white males with disabilities. how does that fit? What's happening with legislation? And other people, black females with disabilities getting triply discriminated against as well. For some people, do I disclose? Do I call myself an employment equity candidate? Do I tick that box? Or am I opening myself up for discrimination? I'm not even going to get it through for an interview. I'll have an employment equity candidate on my CV and not specify my disability. Received a call from an interview and then it's been shut down. I fall under designated groups, so I'm an employment equity candidate, but they can't get past the fact, can't get past that I'm a white male. Again, just lots of males issues there. Some people wait, as I said, rather don't put on their application forms that I'm a person with a disability, and then wait to the interview because to getting into the interview. Most experience negative reactions and inappropriate behavior after disclosing. Some people, the interview panel were shocked, embarrassed or unease, blatant discrimination, and inappropriate questions as well. Either this page or the next one. The interview would be more them asking me questions about my condition and who I am rather than about the job. I would just humor both types of interviewer. I felt I just had to be tolerant and see which way I could get it to work for me, but it never worked. Again, would you ask someone without a disability questions about their personal life? This is we've got people who completely exclude and don't want to look, and others that go over personal. Does it have anything to do with the ability to do their job? Yes or no? And that should be the way that we need to go. There's a general attitude out there that you're white, you still benefited from apartheid. Although the person in the wheelchair may have had the right to vote, they couldn't get into the voting station because it was inaccessible, or they couldn't have their own transport. When the blind guy got to the voting station, couldn't read the voting paper and had the right to a second ballot, no longer exists. Yes, there was, but even then there was still and still is discrimination. Pre-94, I was too blind. Post-94, I'm too white and blind. And I've had to work doubly hard to get where I am because of both. And that came up quite a lot. And then some of the awkward whoops. They said they've made a terrible mistake and they didn't realize that I'm blind and they couldn't possibly do the interview because there was no way I could do the job. It was all presumptuous. They said it straight to your face. Again, do they meet the minimum requirements of the job? Do they have experience and qualification, and do they meet the requirements? But we need to specify that it's only for this type of disability. Because, we're just, whoops, have I just managed to heal this? There we go, back to green, sorry, the remote. Again, stigmatizing, classifying based on what you perceive the capabilities of people with disabilities are. Medical and psychometric testing came up quite a lot. For some positions, you need to do that, and others, companies only provide reasonable accommodations if you go through medical testing as well. Just to think about how legal, how is that? Would that be a requirement for everybody? For one person with a visual disability, she said there was a problem with the psychometric testing. It's not accessible, so we had to do it orally. Okay. So that does show that the employer was actually trying to make an accommodation. This is how it's normally done, but we'll make an accommodation for you. How is it done? Is there negotiation? Is there discussion with the person with the disability, or are you making assumptions again? And then, many people decided that actually not take the job because they didn't want to go through that whole process. What's the point of going through that whole horrific exercise of being discriminated against in the first place by the doctor from hell? I had lots of sleepless nights because of that whole exercise. So lots of trauma, it turned out badly. The last 4 times, I'm not going to put myself through that. I did not want to be treated differently, and I didn't need accommodations. If it was for employment equity purposes, I think it's unfair. Black people and women do not need to be verified as being black or a woman. So what is needed? How can we make this better? What would be, because that was a big thing. Tell me your stories, and then what accommodations or what could we possibly do to make it better? Come in, welcome. Front row seat for you. Okay, so people the participants are saying definitely sensitization, disability sensitization would be really, really key, but also sensitization done by people who have a qualification or experience. Those of you employees will know there are so many fly-by-nighters Oh, I have an uncle's cousin twice removed had a disability. That makes me a specialist. Or we get the people with disabilities that are currently employed. Oh, you must be an expert. Therefore, you're now going to go run the disability sensitization. Go share what it's like to have a disability with all your colleagues. Please be really, really careful. Vet and have discussions. Look at reference lists of people who've done the disability training. What do their track records like? Because as I said, there are so many fly-by-nighters, it's scary. And some of those are so medically based. Oh, this medical model, all the problems, how do we get them to fit into our environment? And yeah, so just be careful with who you choose. And also the fact that it needs to be customized. You can't have a generic one size fits all. When I do sensitization, I work with the HR and the HR department and the recruitment very, very differently than I do with your line managers. We need to customize it to the needs of your particular working environment. It can't be a blanket, abracadabra, you've been sensitized, now I'll go and change the world. It needs to be done carefully, strategically. So overall, general is great, but it's about asking those questions in an environment that you feel safe, that we can actually make sustainable change rather than doing damage control afterwards. And also just look who you're going to employ, because sometimes, sensitize. Sometimes we have it's all the top management, but they actually don't have any contact with people with disabilities at the ground level. We need to be looking at your policies, your procedures, your induction training, your career advancements. When we chat this afternoon after lunch, those who are going to be doing retention, got some people still unpacking milk. 17 years later, that's all you can do is unpack milk. They watch the casual staff come in during holidays, they unpack milk, then they move on to cashiers and up and up and up. But shame, you're the token disabled person. Don't rock the boat. You should be so grateful to have a job. We need to be looking at this strategically as well. Clear policies and procedures, education, and start linking with build relationships with your special schools, with your disability units, your disability services. With, for example, if you're in IT, start bridging and looking at are we supporting our special schools in terms of IT? Are we supporting our faculties at university and colleges, encouraging people with disability? Look at bursaries. As I said, there are no quick fixes. How are we going to change this? Strategic and carefully done. And many negative attitudes. That's assumptions on what this person with disability or people with visual impairments, only thing that they can do, make fantastic switchboard operators, because that's all that blind people and visually impaired people can do is answer the telephone and put you through to the wrong person. And also for me, another big thing is reflection. Just look at what's working, how can we do things better, how can we learn, and just chat to people with disabilities about their experiences. What can we do better? How did it feel for you? What do we need to be aware of? As I said, how can we do things better? And that's me in a nutshell. Are we going to do questions now, or
you have time for some questions?
Do I? Okay. Racing around there. Okay, so please, any questions? Anything I can do? Yeah. And if you don't want to ask questions, also there's lunch and tea as well. If you want to ask. And I'm sorry for being a bit doom and gloom, but I think it's really important to put people with disabilities experience, because often we assume this is what they need, but actually this is my experience, and what can we learn from this, and how can we make it better? As I said, every person with a disability is like all of us, or everyone else is individuals. You can't make blanket decisions based on all people with X category need X and Y. One of the people I interviewed was the best candidate based on his qualifications, experience, and he was the right person for the job. And got to work, and has a visual impairment, and braille embossers, printers. How much does a braille embosser cost? 60,000 rand. Okay, had and enough braille paper to kill a forest. And look how wonderful! Look at what we've done for you. But actually, I don't use braille. Okay, I use my computer software. I use JAWS, screen reading software. I have my own. You don't actually need to pay a cent. Sales consultants will come in and sell you everything. Again, just engage with the person with a disability. What accommodations do you need to be able to do your job? How can we support you? Do you need additional time? I mean, for some people with psychosocial disabilities, all they need, the only accommodation they need, is 1 day a month to go to the day clinic, to go stand in one queue to go see the doctor. get your prescription, go stand in the other queue for the rest of the day to go get your medication from the pharmacy queue. And that's only accommodation they may need. In order to do their job, they need their medication. But no, we can't give you special leave because if everyone else, quote unquote, will want to take the day off to go to the beach too. Okay, it's just what accommodations do you particularly need to be able to do your job? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Emma, could you give us an example, not necessarily by name, but where there has been success, where there's a disability strategy that's been well implemented and how it worked?
Cool. Okay. Name-wise, I can't really give you, but there are some corporates that have learned from their mistakes. I think going too big too quickly has been the downfall of many. One HR manager's got a heart for the disabled, so we'll just recruit as many as we can, and let's go for one particular environment. 200 deaf employees were recruited. Half of them did not meet the entrance requirements, but shame, we have a disability. Let's try to boost up our numbers. I'm sure we can work with them. So disability-wise, let's find the deaf. Don't need to worry about accessibility. We don't need to worry about the toilets. Okay, and they look normal, and they're not going to scare our customers. And I'm sure that the easier group. So we'll just employ 200 of them, and that project failed miserably because they scattered them through various stores. Oh, but can't we just? Do we need interpreters? But now who's going to pay for those? Whoops. Okay, and so you actually need an interpreter for all staff training, all staff meetings, your inductions, but that's going to be so expensive. Can't we just lump them, now that we've scattered them through all different stores, can we not just group them back into like one or two areas? So we'll do VCT training with voluntary HIV counseling and testing for everyone. But now, do we really need an interpreter for that? No, I'm sure we can just write. We can just write little messages backwards and forwards. So some of my participants went to go. They were explaining that they went into this room. The lady nurse locked the door behind them, showed them where to sit, and took the sharp things, jabbed their fingers until it bled, put their blood onto this little white thing, and they had to wait a bit and complete silence. No communication at all, and then she went and wrote something on a piece of paper, put it in the envelope, gave it to me, and led me back to the door. And I opened it and said positive. One of the guys said, "Wow, I thought maybe I did have this HIV thing, but I'm so glad it's positive because positive means good. So I'm okay." No, but so the nurse, the HR said, "No, but they wrote. I was sensitive. I locked the door. I made sure they were okay." And it was one-on-one, and I went and wrote and put in the confidentiality. It was in a sealed envelope. I gave it to them, both feeling like they're really good. Our health and safety as well. Going to chat about that as well after tea. Looking at whether we have. I'm harping on the interpreter there, but no, I'm sure one HR manager said I'll do all the health and safety, fire evacuation. So we have people working on tills, cashiers who are deaf. So, okay, so now what you do is you don't take the money. So if you work on the till and there's a fire, you don't take the money and you don't put it in your pockets. You don't go to the lift, and you took them also. If you don't go to the lift, went in the lift. You don't go up back to the canteen. You don't go to the toilets to get your bag. You don't do that, and you don't go back to the lift because remember lifts are bad with fires. You don't go down, and then you go out the security entrance to the receiving bay, and that's where you're going to wait, and your manager will tick off your name. Okay, so I said to the deaf. The staff. Okay, so how was it? Fantastic. The HR manager was lovely. He really, really has a heart for us. He led us there. He showed us what to do. He said, if there's a fire, we put the money into our pockets. Okay, so then we go to the lift. We go up the lift, and we have to run because it's an emergency. We have to run. We have to go to the toilets. We have to go get our bags from the lockers. Go back to the lifts, and we rush out. We don't have to worry about getting our security searching if there's a fire at the back. We just go through the staff entrance and wait in the receiving bay. Okay, just complete loss in translation. Simple things so basically interpreters are crucial. Deaf aren't, please, if you're going to consider deaf as the easy option, come chat to our colleagues here. It's about accommodations. It's about what's right for you is not going to be right for everybody. And I'm just using the deaf as example, but there are plenty others that we need to think carefully, strategically about how to best accommodate our employees with disabilities.